Hi, Kubbra. Thanks so much for joining us on India Today. And today we're going to be chatting about your new show. And this is big news, Kubbra. At the end of the day, this is the first such announcement coming in from Apple TV with an Indian cast member. No mean feat. Congratulations. You make us proud. And tell us, all of us on the India Today group, and especially us tech geeks who are tuned into these sci-fi sort of series, what Foundation's all about and what your experience was like.
First of all, thank you very much. I think it's the first time through the series of interviews where, I've been reminded, and it's happened the first time that, someone said, "Oh my God, yes, you are the first announcement from Apple TV Plus here in India." It just hit me going like, yeah, that is true, and that's wow. So thank you for that. Um, Foundation as a show, I think, is the incredible vision of Isaac Asimov. The first few feedback that I've received from people is like, I am an Isaac Asimov fan. I've been reading his books. I've read the entire series of Foundation as a kid. So those who are interested in sci-fi and then drawn to it will be drawn to the show immediately. For those who haven't, like probably me, when I did not read the books, um, I think this show talks about how this philosopher, this magician, this incredible writer, this forward thinker named Isaac Asimov almost ascertained what humanity would be like once Earth is over, but the ethos of humanity may or may not change. No matter where we are, no matter who we are, whether we are in positions of power or we are the ones who are subjected to injustice. Irrespective, we have our own reactions. And this is almost humanity's saga at reconstructing themselves, at putting themselves back. And what if we all were over? How would we rebuild ourselves for the world again? So, in that sense, it's a loaded, heavy, textured, incredibly layered show itself. So, you don't have to be a sci fi fan to enjoy Foundation as a whole. Um, Now, this is Isaac Asimov 50 years ago, but then you put David Goyer into the mix, you put Josh Friedman into the mix, you put a Jared Harris, a Lee Pace, a Terrence Mann, and then you just have magic. So for me, this is a surreal experience to be a part of what I would definitely consider a historic moment in
Mhm.
entertainment as itself.
You also part, Kubra, of a very historic moment in entertainment, and this is obviously deviating from our tech chat. But when you were a part of Sacred Games, that was quite a breakthrough role, right? And you have a fan following after a role like that. And what's interesting is that they sort of focus on OTT content, right? The way we've been consuming content over the past couple of years, especially, and some of the things that I've worked on in the past, there's a certain look and feel when it comes to a Netflix sort of content or something on Prime and now on Apple TV as well, right? I mean, I'm a huge fan of Ted Lasso, and that's a show which
Thank
we've been watching
you.
for a while. But we've been
Yes.
craving that as an Indian audience. We've been craving some sort of India specific content. Do you think this? And I'm asking this very expectedly. Do you think this could really open the floodgates for maybe more India specific content on Apple TV? Is that something that's waiting to happen after Kubbra Sait's debut on Foundation?
Well, I hope it is your lips from your words to the ears of God. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? But I think what is even more transformational in this particular show and the fact that it's on Apple TV Plus
Mhm.
is that while the rest of the platforms at some extent are spoiling you with choices,
Right.
at Apple TV Plus you will find exactly what you're looking for, in terms of your emotional state at the moment, like Ted Lasso, which just makes everybody happy. And especially the new season for me is like, what? No, how? Nate,
It
you?
leaves you. It leaves you
Yeah,
surprised every time, right? Because
exactly.
especially the episode with the assistant coach, that confused me. That was another trip altogether with that particular episode. But then it left you thinking about how they're focusing on different forms of storytelling, right? I think that's the
Exactly.
interesting bit.
And then you have Foundation in the same breath, which which is weaving a universe of its own.
Yeah.
It's taking you out of the ordinary, just kind of throwing you up there into this realm of interstellar stories, creating planets with different
Yeah.
languages, creating characters who live on different planets with their own grievances, their own challenges, and how does humanity as a whole, mankind as a whole, deal with these new challenges with the presence of technology, robots, robot wars, what happens to them, how do we survive, do we even survive? So
Yeah.
for me, Foundation is a show where if you are someone who's curious, if you are somebody who is interested in life
Yeah.
as a whole and want to be inspired or seek from entertainment to enhance your life and make it better, then Foundation is a show for you. Foundation is a show for everyone. And as far as representation goes, I,
Hmm.
as a character, could
Hmm.
have been from anywhere
Right.
because it was a global casting. I'm not from Earth, I'm not from India on the show. I am just from a whole different planet. So for me, it is incredible to know that David Goya has this incredible passion. And he says, you know what, let us embark on this journey where we find this character who is from Southeast Asia.
Right.
And then Lucinda Sison reaches out to Tess Joseph. And then this whole magic unfolds. And we're like, okay, then I've been called in for an audition. And all I need
Very
to
cool.
do is show up and do a good job. I thought that itself was the stepping stone to today, where we say the rest is history. So there you go.
I was actually going to ask you about the casting process, and you answered that question for me. But was it very different from the other work that you've done on OTT? You've also done some interesting work in Bollywood as well. How different was the casting process? I know you said Tess Joseph was managing the casting on this one, but was there a different filter or a lens for Apple TV sort of content or something of this scale? Especially with some of the names you mentioned. I mean, these are people who've worked on the Batman trilogy, and Man of Steel. So
Yeah.
was it a very Hollywood-centric casting process?
I wouldn't know what a Hollywood centric casting process really is until I
Hmm.
walked into the room. But what actually made me feel very comfortable with myself is that, the show has a lot to do with imagination,
Right.
especially when you're even filming it, because it's got so much post work in terms
Hmm.
of VFX that what you're seeing is not something that you can believe. You need to believe it when you see the show as a whole.
Hmm.
So I loved how the casting process required the people in position and power to use their imagination to see how I fit into this part. So when
Yeah.
I auditioned for it, I went like this with no scars and no backstory as such.
Right.
But the beauty was how simple you were. I was not asked. I was asked to remove my earrings, my nose pin, no makeup, no nothing. They wanted to see how I convey this character purely through my eyes and through my face, and they wanted to only see that. And there was something in there that landed me this part, and I don't want to question what they saw. I'm just like, give it to me.
I'm glad. I'm glad. No, and we're hoping as people, the community is so interested, Kubbra, in stuff like Comic Con nowadays, and especially some of the superhero things and of course sci-fi, right? When an Interstellar comes out and you see so many Indian blogs talking about the ending of a Christopher Nolan movie and stuff like that. So there's cool stuff happening in this space. We hope this show really opens up, those sort of conversations over here as well. And are you hopeful that perhaps? See, I keep talking about Sacred Games because it was quite a iconoclastic show, right? It broke a lot of stereotypes, especially your role. And that's the little bit that I watched of that show, and so I remember. But in terms of shows like this coming about, do you hope that maybe we can build on this space even in the regional and Hindi language? I know the international guys are doing it, but do you think this is something we'll be building on in India as well, the sci-fi space with this level of production?
I think we are, right? We're
Hmm.
making commendable movement in that space, so to speak. When Bahubali gets made and is consumed by the rest of the world and is lauded for its VFX, we're all sitting and cheering for it, right? So I think we begin somewhere, and if we are speaking about great beginnings, they're
Mhm.
already here. And it's all about being patient and like seeing it through,
Mhm.
and instead of just celebrating what we have, we're constantly unhappy with what we've got. And I think that is something that may not, you know that's not really good for the mind, is the way I look at it. I am someone who practices gratitude in every single aspect of my life. So for me, I'm just grateful to be a part of this incredible series as a whole. That being said, the journey of big stories being told,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
journeys of big characters being told, like how
Yeah.
you said, I watched bits of it.
Mhm.
For me, you will have to watch the whole show because I am in
Absolutely.
lots of bits in this. Watch the entire show, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I think it's just, as I think I spoke earlier, it's about piquing your own curiosity. It's
Mhm.
about asking yourself, am I interested in hearing about a different space?
Mhm.
Am I interested about knowing about something that I don't know?
Very interesting.
Drawing parallels between what that life would be like and this
Mhm.
life that I live in. And when you watch the show,
Mhm.
there are many aha moments where you're like, this is the dystopian world I live in.
Interesting.
I'm almost living in the future. So that for me was really interesting when it comes to the writing as a whole. And I'm so glad you asked about Comic Con. I think in my head, I would
Uh-huh.
have arrived the day there's a figurine made of Phara and placed next to Mola Ram, which is
I
Amish.
hope.
And
I
that's
I
where
hope
we sit.
I hope I'm hosting that show when it does happen as a
Yes,
tech geek.
I'm gonna
But
have a
but but that
figurine of Pharaoh coming.
but that said, Kubra, as a last question, I just want to ask you, you mentioned some very interesting things. You said gratitude and this whole bit about being curious about things. And a lot of us have been thinking, right, over the last couple of years, especially since we've been stuck at home for a long time. And I know, and I have tuned into some of your Instagram lives with some of my friends where you've asked very interesting questions. There are the questions about the universe, spirituality, gratitude that you keep touching upon. Now, I know a lot of them dated before this show. Was it the foundation effect that made you ask those questions, or is that Kubbra Sait either way?
I think I'm evolving every day, so I wouldn't say this is me and that isn't me and that is
Hmm.
me and that isn't
Of
me.
course.
The whole idea of evolving is not rejection. So don't
Hmm.
reject anything that you don't know. Embrace it for yourself. Understand it for yourself to know if it works for you or not. And
Hmm.
I think that itself speaks about how one should look forward to watching the show or not. You know what I mean? It should,
Hmm.
like I receive phone calls to say, so what are the reviews of the show? I'm like, have you
Hmm.
watched it? They're like, I was just about to get to it. So do it, don't
Hmm.
ask and base your opinions or your feelings on what others have to say. Why don't you do it for yourself?
Yeah.
Experience this journey, because a lot of great minds have sat together in several rooms for several hours, whether it is the tiniest detail of how big this scar on Farah's face needs to be,
Yeah.
how much dirt should be applied on her face,
Hmm.
how tight should that corset be, how high her legs should go up for that kick to sell. When the littlest things have been thought about and thought over, I think the least we can do as consumers of the show is to
Hmm.
be open minded, to accept what's being given to us. Reject it if you don't like. That's a whole different story. But enjoy it for what it is in the moment instead of waiting for other people's opinions before you can form your own. And I think that's what we do today, right? When we speak
Yeah.
about technology reaching and invading your privacy,
Correct.
my job was to act. I've done it, and I'm extremely happy with it. But I am a happy person in general.
I'm glad.
So
I'm glad.
I'm just a happy person, and I just cannot wait to see how this turns out for the rest of the world, because it's not my fate alone. It's not my destiny alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many people who've come together to create this magnum opus. And if we all can enjoy it, then it
Yeah.
just gives us all wings. And I think the lesser we think about how to pull someone down, and the more we think about celebrating each other, yeah, that could be one step towards humanity winning again.
So well put, so well put. I think there's a bunch of memes that can come out of your last answer right there, Kubbra. Thanks so much for actually speaking to us. And it's been a fantastic conversation. I won't miss the plug as well. Either way, I'm going to be binge watching this show. And it's going to be a fun one. And we'll let you know what our reviews are, especially from
Please
the tech
do.
community. And I'm going to let you know for sure. And for all of you all who've been tuned in, thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned to India Today.
Thank you so much, Ayush.